Hi everyone, and welcome to today's episode. I'm Emma, and joining me is my co-host, Noah.
Hey everyone, we're so glad you are here with us. Today, we're diving into a topic that impacts every aspect of our lives' daily habits. Whether it's personal growth, career success, or even relationships, the habits we cultivate play a massive role.
Absolutely, Noah. Habits are like the building blocks of our routines, and over time, they shape who we become. It's not just about big, life-changing moments, it's the small, consistent actions that create lasting impact.
Right, Emma. Think about it. Brushing your teeth, exercising, or even taking time to journal. These might seem insignificant on their own, but when done consistently, they bring incredible results.
That's such a good point. I recently read that habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. What you do every day adds up, just like saving a little money regularly grows into something big over time.
Exactly. And the beauty of habits is that they make things easier. When something becomes a habit, it feels natural. You don't have to think about it as much. That's why starting small is so important.
Oh, totally. For example, if you want to build a reading habit, start with just 5 or 10 minutes a day. Once it becomes a part of your routine, you'll naturally find yourself wanting to read more.
Yes. And speaking of routines, morning habits are a great place to start. A solid morning routine can set the tone for your entire day. It could be as simple as drinking water, stretching, or planning out your priorities.
That's so true, Noah. And let's not forget about evening habits, too. Reflecting on your day or preparing for tomorrow can make a huge difference in how productive and focused you feel.
Absolutely. I think the hardest part for many people is sticking to their habits. What's helped me is tracking my progress. Seeing those little wins every day motivates me to keep going.
Same here, and I've also found that rewarding yourself can help. It doesn't have to be something big, even a small treat, or acknowledging your effort can go a long way in reinforcing the habit.
That's a great tip, Emma. And I think another key is to make your environment work for you. If you want to work out more, leave your workout clothes where you can see them. If you want to eat healthier, stock your fridge with healthy options.
Oh, environment is huge. It's amazing how small changes, like rearranging your workspace or keeping distractions out of sight, can make it so much easier to stay on track.
And let's not forget about the power of accountability. Whether it's a friend, a mentor, or even a community, having someone to share your goals with can make all the difference.
Couldn't agree more. Noah, building good habits takes time and effort, but the results are so worth it. When you focus on progress instead of perfection, the journey becomes much more fulfilling.
Absolutely, Emma. And you know, one thing I've noticed is how powerful it is to connect habits to your identity. Instead of saying, I want to exercise, you say, I am the type of person who takes care of their health. It shifts your mindset and makes the habit feel like part of who you are.
That's such a good perspective. Noah, it's like reinforcing the belief that you're capable of achieving what you set out to do. And I think pairing new habits with existing ones can also make them easier to stick to. Like, if you already have a morning coffee, you can use that time to also write down a gratitude note or review your to-do list.
Totally. That's called habit stacking, right? It's such an effective strategy because you're not creating an entirely new routine, you're just building on what you're already doing.
Exactly, and it's also helpful to make habits as easy as possible to start. Like if you want to write more, leave your journal open on your desk. Or if you want to practice meditation, keep your mat in plain sight.
That's such a smart approach, Emma. And I think it ties into something I read recently about reducing the activation energy for habits. The less effort it takes to start, the more likely you are to follow through.
Absolutely, and on the flip side, making bad habits harder to do can really help, too. For instance, if you want to cut back on social media, you could delete the apps from your phone or set up time limits.
Oh, for sure. Removing temptations or adding a bit of friction to bad habits can make such a difference. It's all about designing your environment to support the changes you want to make.
You know what else helps? Having a clear why behind your habits. When you have a strong reason or purpose, it's easier to stay committed, even when motivation dips.
That's a great point. Your why gives you something to hold onto during those tougher moments. And I think that's why celebrating small milestones along the way is so important. It keeps that why front and center.
Definitely, Noah. And it's important to remember that building habits is a process. There will be days when it's harder, but as long as you're consistent overall, you'll see the results over time.
Exactly, Emma. And I think that's something people often forget. They see one missed day or a tough week as a failure. But it's not about being perfect. It's about showing up again the next day and continuing the process.
Right, it's about resilience, not perfection. Every time you come back to the habit, you're reinforcing it. And honestly, those moments when you push through challenges can make the habit even stronger in the long run.
That's so true. It's like muscle memory every time you practice. Even after a break, you're still making progress. And speaking of progress, I think it's also important to occasionally reflect on what's working and what's not.
Oh, absolutely. Reflection is key. Sometimes a habit might need tweaking, or you might realize that your approach could be simplified. It's all about finding what works best for you personally.
Exactly. And I think it's worth mentioning that not all habits will stick forever. And that's okay. Sometimes we outgrow certain routines or goals, and it's fine to let them go and focus on what aligns with your current priorities.
Yes, it's all part of growth. Adapting and evolving your habits as you grow is just as important as building them in the first place. It's about staying flexible and not being too hard on yourself.
Absolutely, Emma. And ultimately, habits are tools to help us live the kind of life we want. They're not the goal in themselves, but a way to support the bigger picture.
That's such a great way to put it. Noah, habits should serve us, not the other way around. It's easy to get caught up in the idea of sticking to a routine just for the sake of it. But if it's not adding value to your life, it's worth reevaluating.
Totally. It's like prioritizing quality over quantity. A handful of meaningful habits that genuinely support your goals will always be more impactful than trying to juggle a dozen things that don't really matter.
Exactly. And another thing that helps is focusing on habits that align with your values. When something resonates with your deeper purpose or what you truly care about, it feels more natural to keep going, even on tough days.
That's such a good point. When you connect a habit to something meaningful, it stops feeling like a chore. Instead, it becomes a part of who you are. For example, exercising isn't just about fitness. It can also be about feeling strong and confident, or having more energy for the people you care about.
Yes, and that shift in mindset can make all the difference. It's about framing your habits in a way that inspires you, rather than feeling like you're forcing yourself to do something.
Absolutely. And on that note, it's important to remember that even the smallest actions count. People often overlook how powerful just starting can be. Even if you only manage a tiny step forward, it's still forward.
Totally, the act of starting, even if it's small, builds momentum. And once you've taken that first step, it's usually easier to keep going. It's like telling your brain, we're doing this, and then everything starts to fall into place.
Yes, and it's so empowering to realize that progress doesn't have to be perfect to be valuable. Small, steady steps add up over time, and before you know it, you're miles ahead of where you started.
That's the beauty of consistency and intentionality. It's all about creating a rhythm that works for you and trusting that each small effort is building towards something bigger.
And I think that trust in the process is what keeps people grounded. When you know that every little effort is part of a bigger picture, it's easier to stay patient and focused, even if the results aren't immediate.
Absolutely. It's like planting seeds. You won't see a tree the next day, but with consistent care and attention, those seeds will grow into something amazing over time.
That's such a great analogy. It's also a reminder that growth takes time, and it's okay to move at your own pace. You don't have to rush or compare yourself to anyone else.
Definitely, everyone's journey is different, and comparison can be such a trap. Instead, it's more productive to reflect on your own progress, how far you've come, and what you've learned along the way.
I couldn't agree more. It's also about celebrating the process itself, not just the outcomes. When you find joy in the effort, the journey becomes so much more fulfilling.
So true, and that joy often leads to even greater success because it fuels your motivation. When you love what you're doing, consistency comes naturally, and the results follow.
Exactly. It's a cycle. Enjoying the process builds consistency, and consistency brings results, which then motivates you to keep going. It's such a positive loop.
And I think that loop is what makes sustainable progress possible. It's not about perfection or intensity, but about showing up for yourself every day and appreciating the little wins along the way.
Well said. When you focus on showing up and doing your best, even in the smallest ways, you're creating a foundation that can support you for the long term.
And speaking of long-term foundations, I think having a support system plays a big role in maintaining that consistency. Whether it's friends, family, or even a community of like-minded people, their encouragement can keep you going when things feel tough.
Absolutely, Emma. Sometimes just knowing that someone believes in you can make all the difference, and having people to share your journey with, whether it's celebrating milestones or just venting frustrations, adds so much value to the process.
It really does. And I'd also say that learning to adapt is part of building consistency. Life is unpredictable, and there will be days when things don't go as planned. Being flexible and adjusting your approach when needed helps you stay on track without feeling defeated.
That's such an important point. Consistency doesn't mean rigidity. It's about finding ways to keep moving forward, even if that means changing the pace or direction for a while.
Exactly, and I think one way to stay adaptable is by focusing on your why. When you're clear about why you're working toward a goal, it's easier to stay motivated, even when things get challenging.
That's so true. A strong why acts like a compass, guiding you back to your path no matter how many detours you take. It gives you purpose and keeps you aligned with your bigger picture.
Right, and pairing that purpose with a bit of self-compassion is key too. We're all human, and it's okay to have off days. What matters is picking yourself back up and continuing the journey.
Couldn't agree more. Progress isn't about being perfect every day. It's about being consistent over time. Small steps add up, and every effort counts, even when it doesn't feel significant in the moment.
That's the beauty of it. Over time, those small steps lead to big transformations. It's not always obvious in the beginning, but when you look back, you'll realize just how far you've come. And speaking of transformations, it's fascinating how the little habits you build every day can ripple into other areas of your life. For instance, if you're consistent with learning a skill, you might notice that your discipline improves in other things, like time management or even self-care.
That's such a good observation, Emma. It's like a chain reaction. Building consistency in one area creates a sense of accomplishment, which boosts your confidence to tackle other challenges. It's all interconnected.
Exactly, and I think another factor that helps is creating an environment that supports your goals. If your surroundings align with what you're trying to achieve, it makes it so much easier to stay consistent.
Right. Like having a dedicated workspace for studying or learning, or even just removing distractions from your environment. It's about setting yourself up for success.
Absolutely, and I've found that celebrating progress, even the smallest wins, makes the journey more rewarding. It keeps your spirits up and reminds you that every little bit counts.
That's such a great mindset. When you take the time to acknowledge your achievements, you're reinforcing positive behavior. It's like saying, hey, I did that, and I can keep going.
And it's not just about the big milestones, either. Sometimes, just showing up on a tough day is an achievement in itself.
So true. And I think another thing to remember is that it's okay to adjust your methods as you go. If something isn't working, don't be afraid to try a new approach. Consistency doesn't mean doing the same thing forever. It's about staying committed to your goal, even if the path changes.
That's such an important reminder. Flexibility is key because life is always changing. Being consistent with your effort while adapting your methods is what really keeps you moving forward.
It really is. And the more we learn to embrace that balance, the more sustainable our efforts become.
Another thing worth mentioning is the power of visualization. When you can clearly picture what success looks like, it keeps you motivated and focused. It's like having a mental map guiding you toward your goal.
Totally, Emma. Visualization can be a game changer. Athletes do it all the time, imagining themselves crossing the finish line or making the perfect play. It's like training your mind to believe it's possible.
And it's not just about the end goal, it's also helpful to visualize the process. For example, if you're learning a language, imagine yourself confidently having a conversation. It's a way to make the journey feel more tangible and exciting.
I love that approach. It's like giving yourself a mental preview of success. And speaking of the process, building routines around your goals is another key. When something becomes part of your daily life, it stops feeling like a chore and starts feeling natural.
Yes, routines are powerful. They eliminate the decision fatigue of figuring out when or how to work on your goals. It's already built into your day, So you just do it.
Exactly. And it ties into the idea of momentum. Once you've built that momentum, it's easier to keep going because you're not starting from scratch every time.
That's so true. And on the days when motivation feels low, relying on that routine and momentum can help you push through. It's about commitment, even when it's not easy.
And honestly, those tough days are when you grow the most. Every time you show up despite the challenges, you're proving to yourself that you're capable. It's those small acts of resilience that build long-term success.
Exactly, Noah. Resilience and consistency really go hand in hand. They're like two sides of the same coin, and together, they make the journey so much more meaningful. So, to wrap it all up, we've talked about how visualization, routines, and resilience can play such a big role in staying consistent and achieving your goals.
Right. And the key takeaway is that success isn't just about big moments. It's about those small daily efforts that add up over time.
Absolutely. Whether it's building momentum, setting clear routines, or just showing up on the tough days, every step counts.
So, whatever you're working toward, just remember it's not about being perfect. It's about progress.
Thanks for joining us today. Stay focused, stay consistent, and we'll see you in the next one.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.